Hey guys, what's up? It's Erin here from the Petite Planner, and today I have a video with some travel doodles, and I decided to do it on my iPad. I get a lot of questions about doodling on the iPad, so I kind of wanted to show you what I'm doing, and I'll kind of explain as I go. So here I started with a new layer, and this is going to be my sketch layer, and I don't always label it, but this time, just for the sake of the video, I did label it sketch, and this might help you just keep track of what layers you're on. So then I grab the hard pencil under the sketching tools in the brush settings, and that's what I'm using, but really you can use anything that you want, and later you can turn down the opacity of it. Sometimes I just use the hard airbrush with a gray color. And then I just go in and rough sketch out the doodles that I'm going to be doing for my project. So here I'm not worried too much about perfection or shapes. It's the same as I would do if I was doodling on paper. So if you've watched my videos and you've watched me doodle on paper, I always start with these basic shapes and then I kind of refine them to make them work. So that's what I'm doing in this video as well. So here is I'm drawing on a new layer, which I have labeled ink, and this is where I'm actually inking in my doodles. So here's where I'm trying to perfect things and I'm making them a little bit nicer. I'm making sure that my edges look the way that I want them. But on this, I'm just doing mainly the outline because just like I would in regular doodling, I like to have a little bit of a thicker outline and then thinner, finer details on the inside. So here I'm just doing the basic outline of everything before adding any details in. I also want to clarify that this video did take me about an hour to film. This is sped up a lot, but I am adding color, which I don't always do when I am doodling on paper, especially in videos. But I wanted to show you guys how I add color and the different layers that I use when I'm adding color. So I'm sorry that this video is really fast, but this video did take about an hour to film and I didn't want it to be super long, so I sped it up a lot. And one thing that I got after making this video, but I want to point out that's made a huge difference just in the past couple days, is I purchased a paper-like screen cover off of Amazon. I can link it down in the description for you, but it made a world of difference. Instead of having no resistance with your pen, it makes it feel more like paper, which is really nice. So here what I'm doing is I created a new layer for my details and I changed my brush size to a smaller brush. And I don't think I've mentioned this, but for the brush size or the brush that I'm using in this, I just use the hard airbrush. That's typically what I use to doodle with because I can get it fairly small, fairly large, and I have changed mine so that the streamline is a little bit more, so there's more streamlining, so that means that there's a little bit more give from your pencil shaking. It won't create super wobbly lines. But as you can see here, I'm just adding all my details to my doodles with these smaller, thinner pen strokes, and then we'll go in and add color after this. Okay, so when I am coloring on the iPad and I'm coloring in Doodles, sometimes I will just use the fill feature, but on this one I wanted to have a different layer, and this just kind of helps me turn layers on and off in case I don't want the color, I want to change the color or something like that. So what I'm doing here is I'm just taking my hard airbrush, and remember, on a new layer, and I am tracing around the spaces that I want to be colored in, and then for larger spaces, when I trace around them, I just fill them in by the drag and drop method. And you can see here that I'm just doing the drag and drop method. I like to do things differently on each thing, so I have multiple layers going on at a time. For any area that does not want to fill in or that is too small to color in, I will create a layer that is behind my doodles and then color under it. And that'll just give you a little bit of leeway when you're coloring, because you can just color right to the edge of the black doodle like I'm doing right here, but it won't go over those black lines, so it's not quite as bad. Now, something you'll notice as I'm doing this, occasionally when I'm just going to fill in a spot, especially on the actual doodle layer, it will completely cover the entire page or a very large section. And that means that you have a black line that isn't fully connected. And sometimes this is as simple as having a curved line that only has a single pixel, and those pixels are not dark enough, so it doesn't think that they are all connected. And so then you either have to create that layer behind, or you have to find that spot where it's not connected and connect it. So what I'm doing here, and what I did in the little Polaroid frame, is I'm adding a second layer just for whatever I'm doing right then, and I'm adding a darker color, and then I select that layer, or the layer below it, I guess. I select the layer of the doodles that are colored, and then I blend the layer of dark that I just created. So for that seashell, to give it that nice gradient color there, I just added that dark purple around the edges, selected the seashell layer, went back to the dark purple, and then did a Gaussian blur on it. And I love using the Gaussian blur feature, and you'll see I do it here on this map to add some darker green spaces. The only thing that I would suggest is just making sure that you're paying attention to where your Gaussian blur blurs to, because sometimes it'll go outside the lines. So here mine went outside of the map, so it kind of stretched out onto that white part, and I didn't want that. So then I have to go in with my eraser and erase some of that Gaussian blur, and that's why you want to make sure that it's on a separate layer. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed these doodles. If you want to see more of these, you can go check out my Instagram. I did post an actual journal entry of these same doodles that I did by hand in my bullet journal. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.